All right, hey man, how's it going?
Howdy doody, not too bad. We actually got some sun here in Vancouver.
Ooh, yeah, nice
I was able to
sunlight.
open up
Yeah,
my blinds a little bit.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, it's crazy that that area doesn't get a lot of sun. So everything on the coast, anywhere near the coast, I guess, never really gets. They get more rain,
No,
not a lot of
yeah,
sunlight. Yeah, it's
yeah. The
unfortunate.
the ocean does bring a lot of weirdness to the weather, I will say. But
Mm-hmm.
it's warm. It's always generally warm, except for that freeze that we had a few weeks ago. Guys, you'll never understand how cold it gets. Negative 15 Celsius. That is like Arctic weather for Vancouver.
That's cold for
Yeah,
Vancouver.
yeah.
Yeah,
It
minus
snowed like
minus
almost a full
40
foot
for
of
the
snow
rest of
too.
Canada. But what's
Yeah,
that?
minus 40 for the rest of Canada, but minus 15 for Vancouver. Oh, people
Vancouver.
died.
Yeah.
No, I actually have no idea, but it snowed almost a full foot. Like it actually might have been more than a foot over the course of a few days, but I shoveled like 7 walks.
Mm. Oh yeah, that's right. You like to help out your neighbors. Yeah, it was very cold where I was as well. Not great. So it's nice to have the sun back. But Mitchell, let me ask you this: Do you like the ocean? I don't think you
Not
do. Do
not
you?
really,
No.
no. But the thing is, like with land, like say you're lost in the middle of nowhere, say a forest. You're on land, you don't have to
You
worry
can walk,
about.
right?
You can
You don't have to
walk,
worry
yeah.
about
Yeah, you don't
anything.
have to
Yeah.
walk. You can breathe.
Right.
The so-called predators, they're on the same, plane as you.
Platform is you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about three directions. You don't have to worry about left, right, front, back, up,
Right.
down. With the forest,
Mhm.
maybe a big bird, a dragon, who knows? That's up, and you rarely have to worry about that unless you're a small child, which there has been cases of eagles and stuff actually taking kids, but like that's very very very
That's
rare.
that's funny actually that that would even happen, but you never know, right?
Well,
But
as a 6'2" guy, I weigh 240 pounds, and I'm pretty sure that the bird or dragon that would have to carry me off would have to be like have like 100-foot wingspan or something like that. It'd have to be
sure,
a really big
it'd be
bird.
pretty large for
But
sure. But
yeah, yeah, I've been watching some things recently on YouTube about the ocean and with orcas. And orcas are scary,
yeah.
man. They're jerks. We think dolphins are jerks. No, no, orcas are bigger jerks than
No, orcas are
dolphins.
like vicious. Yeah, they're
Oh
like some
yeah,
of the
they're
most
called
dangerous
killer
creatures in
whales.
the ocean. Well, of course, the reason I ask is because here we are, right, for arguably, if not my favorite episode of the season.
It's a pretty good one.
It is a great episode,
it's not my favorite of this season, but I'd definitely say
but it's
top
up
five.
there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. The Deep South, one of, as I just said, my favorite one. Not your favorite, but a close contender, I guess.
top five.
One up there. Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess we begin. No cold open. Opening title down below, a stern warning of things to come. Ooh, right. Another one of these fun ones. We're open to, yeah, kind of a joke scene, I guess. Leela with Nibbler. We actually get to see Nibbler again very briefly as she's poking or picking out fleas,
Fleas.
I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, fleas from Nibbler. She's throwing out the window, but unbeknownst to her, Bender is putting the fleas into Nibbler from Fry.
I
So we
like
got a
it.
nice little
Social
thing there.
grooming.
Yeah, the four of them all sitting there together. So here we have an entrance of Hermes, and Hermes has interesting news. He's apparently going to, or he did get a pet license for Nibbler, so he could be the Nibbler could be registered under the Planet Express. I guess. I guess it doesn't really wasn't really necessary for the Planet Express crew, but he did it for Leela. But it turns
It's one
out
of
it's
those
not
future
actually for
things.
Leela.
It's one of those future
Right.
things where
Well,
like everything's mandatory. If you have to get a haircut, you have to get a permit. I'm sure that's like one of those things there.
well, there is a joke. There are jokes about that all throughout the series, but I think it's honestly just because, as Hermes mentions, he likes to just do requisition forms.
As we
And
learned
since
from a couple episodes ago.
we did just do his episode, but Hermes has in this episode right now, I think the my favorite joke of this whole show of this whole episode, when she asks like, oh, or she says like, oh, that's so sweet of you to do that. I didn't know you cared so much about Nibbler, and he's like, dream on, woman. I'd rather put the little bastard in a sack, throw the sack into a river, throw the river into space. And I think that's still one of the greatest lines I've ever heard from Hermes.
Hermes just
So
doesn't like people.
he hates people, man. He's all about numbers. As long as you can crunch down numbers and efficiency, he's all good for that. So, any case, turns out this pet license was a mix-up, and it turns out to be a fishing license, and
It's
it's
mandatory.
mandatory. They have to go fishing now, which is hilarious. So, I guess the whole crew is forced to go, I guess, because it's under the Planet Express company. So they leave and they go to the middle of the ocean, I guess, international waters. and they're all there for it. And Bender decides to do this. What would you call it? Just kind of a betting thing, like who can ever get the best fish or the biggest fish or something, right?
It's just Bender being Bender. He likes to always be the number one guy for some reason. And also when we get to the end of the episode, he really wanted that $1,000 for the breaking the world record fish. And it's just like, it's $1,000. That's not a lot of money when you think about it for a prize for a giant, like the world breaking record fish. $1,000 is not a lot.
Especially for that size of fish. And it's just Well, when we get to that as well and how funny that is, but that the whole situation of the group of them, and they're all going to compete. I guess they've all put in money for this largest fish kind of competition, like $5, or maybe Bender just pocketed that money. I'm actually not sure, but they all decide to do this contest. What do we have here? Fry has a traditional rod. Leela has a harpoon.
I love that Leela has a harpoon. Because you think about her backstory, is like, when the hell did she learn any of this? Because she was at an orphanage, and orphanages generally are just kind of like, they house the kids and they feed the kids, and then there's public education, to my knowledge. I'm pretty sure there might be some more upscale ones that might do stuff like go to the zoo, if that. But
we've learned that this orphanarium that she grew up in isn't actually very good either, right?
Yeah, it was low. Oh crap, what was it? Like prison. What was that? Like low security. It was low security. Yeah, it was low security orphanarium.
And the bars looked so much bigger back then, right? Yeah. No, she
did learn kung fu or karate or whatever. And that was when she was a teenager. So
kind of, was it no, I can't remember his race, but whatever the care that sensei's thing was. Yeah, some alien. But she did learn some kind of martial art, and she did in flashbacks that you see of her in the future episodes, there are things of her doing stuff in other places, so she is freely able to go places. Maybe she had a part-time job. She was able to put together some stuff.
I was going to mention that maybe she had a part-time job as a teenager, which she
probably did.
Even non-orphanage teens should do that today, in my opinion. But everything costs so damn much, they probably wouldn't get a job. But
it depends on what kind of job you're looking for, right? I mean, so she probably got at a 7-Eleven or some kind of thing or whatever, right? So, I mean, Leela is quite accomplished because she's also working in that cryogenics thing. But I don't know if she may have got got that from her little chip that they kind of talk about sometimes in the episodes. Yeah, but whatever.
That's a very good question. Is did she go to school for this? Because if that's the case, then why is she a pilot of all things?
Because they stole the other guy's chip. That's all it was.
Right.
She did. That's another thing as well, though. You mentioned is that she's also learned how to fly a ship, right? I guess not everybody can do that. Maybe they can. I don't know. She makes such a big deal of being a starship captain, so it must be something like this, right?
Maybe it's different with an interstellar spaceship versus just a cargo ship from the moon. Even though that was literally the second episode. That's
true, and everybody Amy was able to drive her brand new car to Mercury. So I actually don't quite know what the difference is between a hover car and a spaceship.
This kind of broke me a little bit, because it's she's the only reason why Leela is so important to the company is because she can fly this ship. But like you just said,
she only has one eye.
But Amy went in her little car to Mercury or Venus or whatever it was, which is further than the moon. So it doesn't make sense. So
I think it's not necessarily that she's just a pilot. I think it's also she's responsible. Amy's clearly not always there. She's a little dense or a little aloof on things or forgetful. Fry's clearly an idiot. Bender can't be trusted. We know this from this episode even. He can't be trusted. And
we can always look at it too.
Hermes and Zoidberg are different jobs, right? So.
Exactly. Well, yeah, but I also would just say because the one episode way in the future when they use that Mars spaceship thing or whatever when they all fly to Mars because Earth is going to blow up. They say that hey, we need a spaceship captain. Oh, but we already have one. It's Zap Brannigan. But Leela's way more qualified, as we know, as a person. So maybe, and again, this is probably some backstory they haven't touched on or doesn't exist or I'm making up. But because she knows kung fu and all that stuff, and she actually did work for Dupe as a space captain for a while. Maybe that's just a different level kind of thing. Because Zap Brannigan is also a captain of a ship.
And he currently works for Dupe as well, right?
Exactly. So he's maybe it's a military training, or maybe it's a specific type of title that you can get, but you have to do it. Because again, as we established, you could just drive a space car to anywhere you want to do, but for some reason, a space captain is a different title. So
maybe it's something to do also with like the size of the ship, and that it's like commercial versus residential or not
okay, so she's
not the
she's a
residential,
space
like
semi truck
private.
driver.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, she
It
does talk about this in the
it does
future
have
as
a
well,
cannon.
but
It does have a
yeah,
cannon on it too, which we will
yeah.
see
So like
next episode.
it's yeah. So I think there are some interesting little qualities that make
Yeah,
it specifically a spaceship.
yeah, yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
like a license, so to speak. But like you and I have a regular, I think it's
just a
license.
normal license.
Yeah,
Yeah, normal
like
driver's license. But
5, I
you
think
could
it is,
have like
class 5. That's what I
so
think ours is.
imagine you and I have like just the class 5 driver's license,
Yeah,
right? The normal one
the
for
basic one.
normal vehicles, whereas Leela has like the equivalent of like a jet license or a plane license or something. So
Yeah.
she can fly something, whereas we
Yeah.
can
Okay.
only
Well,
fly
there
one.
we go. We
Yeah, that's probably what
figured
it
it
is.
out. Boom. There
Yeah.
we figured it out. So she's like the all class, or like
She has
the
a high class
specialist.
of
Yeah.
license. She's specialized in this
Yeah.
type of machine. But then we also learn that other characters do learn how to fly that ship. So it's not super
Yeah,
difficult.
Fry
But
learns
it's
kind
yeah,
of.
and
I don't
Amy's
know.
yeah,
Again, we don't know if he has a license for it, and same with Amy. But we also saw Amy drive it in the second episode,
that's
and the
right.
professor did make it, so he knows how to drive too.
Of course. Yeah,
And
he
we
drives
also, I
it,
think,
right, yeah.
we assumedly see Hermes drive it too in one episode, the one with the box and the different universes. He drives it to the sun.
Oh, right. Which we'll get to.
And then
That's a good
also
episode too.
Bender was driving with his ass one time.
Yeah, everybody knows how to
yeah,
drive that ship, I guess. But don't forget, it also has an autopilot. Anyway,
that
going off
drunk.
topic for this ship. But in any case, getting back to the crew for this episode, we talk
Sorry.
here. So
It was
yeah,
an
Fry
important question,
no.
and we mostly
Fry
answered
has the rod, the traditional rod. And so does Hermes. Actually, they both have the rod, but Hermes has specialized bait, which was also a funny little gag with Zoidberg eating his food, and Leela has a
Oh, I
harpoon,
love that.
which we talked about. And then, of course, Bender has a laser guided fishing rod just because, needs that kind of thing. Despite him being a robot, he could probably figure it out. And I think and then the professor has he has a normal rod as well, but he's going to use the fish pheromone, which he accidentally sprays on himself.
Have you ever done that? Like with a bug spray or any kind of spray where you accidentally you're trying to spray something else, but you forgot where the nozzle was and sprayed yourself with it?
And then Zoidberg's like, I'm so into you.
Yeah.
That's so great. And then Amy just wants to relax. She's going to suntan. She's not participating in the contest. But
as she's established, she's a dipsy kind of
exactly. She's a ditzy girl who well, actually she is ditzy, but she's just all loving and just wants to hang out and relax, right? Like she doesn't want to do any hard work. So here they are. They're all doing their own thing. I love the jokes. Obviously, this is some of my favorite ones. Is every time Leela throws her harpoon into the water, gets a boot. And when she gets the boot, and then another time she's like, "Oh yeah, it's like 10 times or 20 times heavier than a boot," and it's like a 10
pairs of boots.
And then the last time she throws, it's like, "Oh, this time it's like definitely alive," and it's Zoidberg holding on to a boot. And she catches him. Oh man. These guys, whoever wrote those scenes, if it's the same person, but that whole thing is just wonderful because everybody, Fry and Bender keep having this back and forth of who's going to get the better fish and who's doing it better and all this kind of stuff. But in any case, they all decide they all fall asleep, and Bender, I guess he got fed up with Fry beating him at catching the fish.
He wasn't catching anything. Bender wasn't catching anything. So he's like, if I'm not going to catch something, I'm going to not catch a big something,
right? Not a big fish. So as I mentioned, Amy's sunbathing, but she does have a parasol, one of those giant umbrellas. Bender takes it, squeezes it, makes it into a hook, and then he ties it with this diamond filament tether that the professor has attached to the ship, which does actually come back in multiple episodes. This is another continuity thing, which is great. And he chucks it into the water. Hours go by. Everybody's fallen asleep, or they're all hanging out, or whatever. Amy's sunburned. Nobody else has caught much else, and I guess Leela's the only one that's been up the whole time, doing whatever.
Throwing and getting boots.
Yeah, exactly. And Zoidberg at one point, right, who is eating the boot. So, they fill it off. Oh, I also want to mention this is the beginning of this series' long-running joke, and they still do this. Even with the newer episodes, the Manwich. This is the beginning of the Manwich thing with Hermes and my Manwich. This is the beginning of it. So everybody's asleep. Everybody does whatever. They wake up and they're time to go home. It's dusk, and Bender tries to bring in his line, but it turns out to be snagged. and it's caught on a giant fish. I think it's called the colossal mouth bass.
Yeah.
Which is this massive creature.
I do
about
like
the size
how
of the ship.
Yeah, about the size of the ship. I like the future because like everything's supposed to be technological, right? But like when he starts trying to reel it in, it has a label on it that says tether controls, and all it is just
Like a little wheel crank.
spool.
Yeah.
It's a spool, and he's just
Yeah.
it's just a spool, and you think future wise you could have like a button that would do
Right.
it, or like some kind of sensor, but
Yep.
again,
No, it has to be.
no,
Has to be like that. Yep.
It's manual,
Crank.
yeah,
Yep.
manual
Exactly.
crank.
So anyway, the bass is there. I do actually like this as well. I don't know if you caught this. When the bass jumps over the ship, it has this the sound effect. Did you recognize that sound effect? I think it was like from Jurassic Park or something.
I
It was
don't
like
remember the sound.
It's a weird little it sounds, I think, kind of like the T-Rex a little bit.
Like
It's just
the
like
roar or the music?
like a roar. Yeah, exactly. So it kind of goes right over, but it's kind of like it's just one of those general effects that Jurassic Park had, I think. Anyway, it dives right into the water.
That sounds more like something from like The Land Before Time with the T-Rex. Maybe that, which was also done by Spielberg. So I can
Spielberg thing, but I'm pretty sure it was Jurassic Park. But in any case, it dives.
Yeah, it's a fun sound effect.
Yeah, and because the colossal bass is like hooked onto it, of course the bass dives down and it starts spinning really quickly. They can't stop it, and it's diamond filament, which means it's unbreakable. So Zoidberg tries to cut it, doesn't work, and they end up getting dragged under the water, and they're gone. Yep, completely gone. Of course, though, they're fine as they're getting pulled down. And they crash, I guess, right at the bottom of it when the colossal bass releases the hook.
Yeah.
But the ship is completely useless underwater. So.
Well, one of my favorite jokes is it's like, oh no, we're going so deep underwater. There's so much pressure. I don't think our spaceship can handle us. Well, how many hulls does the spaceship have? Well, because it goes into space, you need 0. So between 1 and 0.
Like, how much pressure can the ship deal with? It's like, well, it's a spaceship, so either between 0 or 1. And there's like, well, how are we going to release the pressure? And then it like pops, and it's like, oh, that should do it.
Yeah, all the pipes burst and everything.
Yeah.
And I love this too. Fry's like, hold on, I got an idea, and he leaves. Yeah. And then he comes back and the water's going away. He's like, oh, that was a great idea, Fry. Like, what? I just went to the washroom.
Yeah. He's like, wait, what idea? Yeah. So yeah, they're at the bottom. I do like this idea that it's kind of like they're trapped in the ship there. So they're all dealing with everything, and they're fixing the power, and they're fixing the piping and everything, and sweeping and everything. And I guess they're trying to figure out what to do next, right? Hermes. What does Hermes say? He's like, the first order of business is lunch. Let's eat Zoidberg.
He messes up Zoidberg's name a few times.
It's like Lobster Zoidberg. I mean, Dr. Zoidberg.
Yeah.
And Zoidberg just kind of has like this, like, wait, what? Like, don't eat me. And so Leela, obviously she takes over as the captain of the ship, right? She kind of takes charge or whatever. So she and the professor work on it, and she sends out Zoidberg and Bender to go look for food. Fry goes with them.
Yeah, because they can survive underwater, because Zoidberg's from the ocean and Bender's a robot and jack of all trades.
He can survive everywhere. Yeah, exactly. He can survive in immense heat or in like deep water, right? The only thing is that Fry needs to take a something for the what is it, like
pressure.
The pressure down underwater, right? So he needs like to decompress or whatever. And so the professor actually has a pill for this. Coincidentally, has one,
and it's a giant ass pill.
That's not really a swallowing pill. It's a suppository.
Oh, yeah. It was good news, everyone. It's a suppository.
And everyone's like, oh, great. So Fry seems fine with it. So the three of them are outside, like in the water. Zoidberg and Bender, collecting food, fish, and all that stuff. And I love this, like, they're again, as you mentioned, with like the little crank thing with the tether.
Yeah.
The best thing they have for technology for breathing underwater is a garbage bag and a straw.
Not just any straw, a silly, crazy straw.
Yeah, a silly straw. So, how you doing over there, Fry? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, that's good to hear, Fry. So, he can't speak. So they make their way through the ocean. They're doing all this stuff. This is actually really cool. I really like the animation that they did for this, because it primarily takes place underwater, I think, most of it.
It's a hard thing to do.
Because hair is always moving.
Yeah.
But in any case, they go there. I as they're walking through the ocean, they come across a ship. Oh, right, another great one. Zoidberg finds his home, his shell home. So he
Like a
looks now
hermit
like a
crab.
hermit crab.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Zoidberg, a homeowner.
That was pretty good. So here he is. He's like carrying this little shell, like he looks like an actual crab now, crawling around with them. And they get to this sunken ship. Bender finds some booze. He's trying to do this stuff, and Zoidberg, jokingly asks him to help move a couch. So he disappears into his shell. Somehow they both fit into his shell quite comfortably, despite it being like quite small. And what does Fry see but an actual mermaid? Mermaids exist in the future, and he's like because nobody can understand him underwater. So he's like trying to tell them. They think he says some other things. What is it? Lemonade.
Student loans have
Stellar
been
Parade.
paid.
Your student loans have been repaid, right? Zoidberg wants some money from him. And it kind of continues this joke. They're all eating their fish like, a little bit later, and they're all inside the ship again. They're all eating, and Fry's still doing this thing. Nobody can understand him because he hasn't swallowed.
Stop talking with your mouth full.
So that means between this time and another time, he just suddenly remembered there was a mermaid while he was eating, and that's when he starts to talk again.
My favorite bit about that is like Leo's like, nah, you're sick in the head. You got ocean madness.
Ocean madness, yeah. My favorite is the professor,
good.
though, because he's like, that's no excuse for ocean rudeness. Fry gets up and leaves in anger. But yeah, nobody believes him. Nobody believes him. They believe it to be ocean madness. And Fry's just, pissed off. He goes to bed, and he and Bender are in their quarters, and he's just fuming. He's just talking to himself. And this mermaid, right, knocks on his window, and he's like, oh my God, she's there, and tries to wake up Bender, doesn't do anything. He leaves.
I love Bender here because he's awake, but he turns up his snoring.
Yeah, to make it sound like I don't care, Fry.
Yeah, I don't care, Fry. I'm trying to sleep, even though I'm a robot, doesn't technically need sleep.
That's
I'm
right.
just I'm gonna turn up my snoring though.
Yeah, Bender really is just a real ass sometimes. He just doesn't care about anything for these people. So here he is, Fry. He's like, oh, oxygen, and he
puts it in a suitcase of all things.
Like, he just does this little like scooping mechanism thing, like just just puts as much oxygen as he can into a suitcase.
Cups the air,
because he's an idiot. So he grabs the suitcase, but he pulls it out, and even stupider is he lets it go, and it floats as he's shutting the door, and he's like, oh. Well, now I'm screwed. So he screams, but here she is. This mermaid shows up, and she gives him like this rebreather thing. Hooks onto the nose and the back of the throat, so he's able to breathe, and he can speak quite clearly underwater as well. And it turns out this mermaid's name is Umbriel, and she has a very how do I describe it? A southern United States accent, right? Wow. That southern drawl, and we learn a little bit afterwards why. But they have this nice connection and everything. What do you think of Umbriel as a kind of a one-off character? I guess we don't really see her again after this episode.
We see her one more time.
We never hear from her again.
No, we hear her from her too. Yeah. It was the voodoo episode. The most recent
she doesn't speak.
Yeah,
just the Colonel speaks. No, she doesn't. Just the Colonel speaks. I promise you. Positive. Doesn't matter, but I'm positive. But in any case,
I'll have to double check later. Her. I'm pretty sure you're wrong though.
As far as I remember.
I don't know. Did you ever see that movie with Tom Hanks, Splash? Just they're trying to go for that beautiful blonde mermaid. It's like, yeah, okay, good for you. You got it. So it's not bad. It's good.
Does she have any like? Is it clearly taken from that, like inspired from that, or is it just from any generic mermaid? Do you think?
Any generic mermaid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I would think, when did Splash come out? It probably came out in the 90s when Tom Hanks was still big and skinny, like big in popularity and skinny in frame.
I got you. Yeah.
And maybe that could have been reminiscent of it, but like again, it's just a blonde mermaid, which the one in Splash was too.
Oh, okay. So maybe there's some. Like I said, I never saw the film, but did she have any accent that you can remember? Did she have a southern accent or anything? No. Oh, okay. All right. So it must have been just for the character. So it's more original. That's good.
Well, I think the whole thing is they came from Atlanta, which is in Georgia, right?
Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah. Well, as I was just going to get to, so we get to her and Fry. They're doing a montage and they're kind of falling for each other. This is kind of cool, actually. See like a giant squid whale fight, volcanic activity. They ride on a manta ray. he does like this. Actually, this really shows like the romantic side of Fry, because this is kind of what we see later in the series when he's more like this
Yeah, he's thoughtful.
with Leela. Yeah, like he's quite a romantic, and so he does like this "I love you" thing with like the glowing eels and everything underwater, and yeah, everything is really really nice. So anyway, Fry's disappeared, and the crew are like, well, where should he go? Where did he go? Like he somehow left underwater or something. Like should we go find him? And they there's a joke where they all abandon Leela while she's like talking about ocean madness in different terms. So she's like I can't even remember all of them. All I remember is like the wet willies, and I was like, oh, that's clever actually. I like that. the underwater crazies or something, the wet willies. So they all leave, and I guess they use Zoidberg as a hound,
tracking dog,
hound or whatever, tracking dog.
Yeah, there's a couple P jokes in there that we forgot to mention too. It's just like, let the ocean massage you into being like, relaxed and
warm.
yeah. Oh, here we are next to this lovely like underwater volcano where the waters can also relax you. Did it get colder here? No.
Colder? And that's when he puts like the little things over the fire. Yeah.
With the shrimp, as we know that you love. I'm not a big fan of shrimp.
Yeah, you don't like seafood, unfortunately.
No, I don't like crustaceans. I'm fine with fish.
Okay with
I'm fine with fish.
Salmon, right? You're okay with salmon.
I love salmon. Salmon is my also favorite. Yeah.
But you also like sushi. Yeah. Right. So you like raw fish.
Salmon sushi. Yeah, salmon sushi.
Just
obviously California rolls, right, guys? As we all know, that's real fish, right? Yeah.
Right. So yeah, and as you alluded to earlier, so they're all walking around and they find this sunken city, and it's like this metropolis city underwater. And for the first time viewers of this, they'd be like, oh, this is clearly Atlantis, right? It must be Atlantis. It's Atlantis ripoff. It's okay, whatever. And as they find it, it has like Atlan, which is like covered by barnacles and seaweed and all this kind of stuff. So they start whopping up, and it turns out to be Atlanta. That's actually pretty clever. I like that. It's like, whoa. Wait a minute.
The story behind it is pretty fun. It's like Atlanta thought they were too cool for being landlocked, so they just lifted the city.
They thought they didn't get enough support or something. They didn't get enough like people visiting them, so they wanted more attention. Oh. So they wanted to be taken seriously, so they got moved to the ocean so more people would come visit them. Yeah. As explained by
the Colonel.
The Colonel, and also by I was trying to remember his name. I think it was Donovan. It's like the folk singer. That's actually him. Like they credited him as
really?
Being in the episode. Yeah, it's actually him. So he sings this, well, not sings, he like sings this folky type of tune to the original Atlanta. I don't think they say what year, because I listened twice to it, but I was trying to figure out what year it was, but it doesn't matter. Atlanta is normally landlocked in Georgia, just north of Florida, for those of you who might not know.
I don't know.
And they take the city with helicopters. I don't know how, but they do, and they drop it in the middle of the ocean somewhere off the Atlantic Ocean, and it got too developed and it sunk, and only the most important people were able to get off. So this included like Ted Turner, Jane Fonda, Jeff Foxworthy, some guy named the Magician, which Leela calls out later.
My favorite thing about that was like Jane Fonda wasn't really supposed to be on it, but she kind of pushed people off and got on it herself, which I feel like is not untrue of the person. It's not a lie.
I think that's the joke of it. It's like she's like kind of selfish, so she pushed to get onto it. But there's also a mention of Hank Aaron in this episode as well, which we'll see in the future episode with Leela's a League of Her Own, or a Leela of Her Own, or whatever it is, where she plays Burnsball. That's Hank Aaron. That's the guy who teaches her to play poorly, or at least his descendant.
The descendant. Okay,
it's like the 100th Hank Aaron or something, or 42nd Hank Aaron or something. In any case, that's there. And and they meet the Colonel, and the Colonel's like, check out this area, and they find Fry and Umbriel, and they're dating, they're having a good time. I think it's only been because Fry only makes a joke of it. It's only been like a day. Right, it's not very long since they've been.
Like they've been, it's been hours, not like
hours. But it seems like they've been dating for a long time, because they've come out like a movie, and they've been like swimming around. He's met the Colonel. The Colonel's like, oh yeah, like I didn't like him when I first met him, but he's grown on me, kind of thing. You're like, that didn't take long.
We also forgot to mention the breathing apparatuses. They just put them up in their nose and have like a string in their mouth
No,
so
I
they can
mentioned
breathe in the
that.
water. You did?
I mentioned that. Yeah,
Well,
I mentioned that with Fry.
one of my favorite things with the professor is like this is uncomfortable and humiliating. Now, if only they could make this some sort of suppository.
He wants it up the butt. Yeah. And I also did like when they are leaving the ship to go search for Fry, Bender says like, "Oh, I've got your oxygen covered, no problem." So he actually had oxygen for Fry to use with that garbage bag, but he never gave it to Fry. So he's actually this whole episode he's just been angry at Fry, and it's
Yeah.
shown. Yeah, I think he was holding a grudge this whole time, so he didn't want to teach him with or help him out with the air. He made himself louder with his snoring to not listen to Fry. And then at the end of the episode, as you mentioned, and he like tries to strangle him because of the fish thing. Yeah. But then he does show that he's sad when he leaves. So, any case, getting ahead of myself. We go there.
It's Bender. He can't show emotion, but as soon as it hits him, it's just he has his heart on his sleeve very, very loudly.
Right. And everybody's like, "Oh my God." So here they are. The Colonel has invited them. Colonel's also Umbriel's father, if I forgot to mention that. But he brings them over, and he's also like he looks very much like a mermaid version of Colonel Sanders, like the KFC mascot. So, and he sounds very much like him. I'm not 100% sure who plays him. Is it Phil Lamar? Maybe.
No, bro. I think it would be Maurice LaMarche, if anything.
Is it? I don't think it's for Maurice LaMarche. I don't think he was in the cast, but any case, whoever it was, they did a very good accent, and he has a moment for dinner, and they're all there, talking about whatever, and Hermes mentions that he misses his wife and his oxygen, and the professor makes a joke about everybody misses their loved one and their gases, so they're gonna go, and Fry decides he doesn't want to go. He's in love, right, with Umbriel, and the professor yells at him and says like there's no way you're going to be able to return if you stay down here too long. You'll never be able to come back to the surface. And Fry just says I don't care. And so they're all leaving. They all have their tearful goodbyes, and they leave him with Umbriel and the Colonel. And they make it back to the ship, the rest of the crew. And Zoidberg's like, well, I guess I'm going to leave too. And they all just like, okay, bye, Zoidberg.
Bye, Zoidberg. No one cares.
Because Zoidberg has his shell home, right? Which he's been, making it look nice over the course of the episode. It looks really good. But, oh no, poor Zoidberg. What's happened to his shell?
It's burnt down. And I love Hermes says, I have questions. And then Bender's like, so that's where I left my cigar. I have further questions.
Yeah. What? So, yes. So it's something that is not wood, underwater, from a cigar, burned down Zoidberg's home. Like, this is how unlucky Zoidberg is his entire life. So Zoidberg goes back with them. Makes sense. And meanwhile, we have Fry and Umbriel, and they're getting
it on.
Yeah, they're getting cozy up with each other and everything. And then they get to the point where they need to, do something. And since she's half fish, it doesn't work with Fry.
Yeah, I'm a little confused here too. Don't tell me I'm your first.
Yeah.
I lay my eggs and then you fertilize them.
Yeah. And he's like, and then it cuts to him like running
away. Yeah.
And then he says something about the what is that? Like, why couldn't she be the other type of mermaid with like the lady part on the bottom? And I'm like, but would you actually be attracted to that? Like, that's such a weird thing to say.
Actually, has Fry been attracted to an alien species at all?
He did make out with the radiator
from the radiator planet.
and the cactus people from that area that also turned out not to be a cactus. I think he
just handshaked them, and like they were weird at handshaking. That's because that was a cactus.
That was an actual cactus.
Like, I think the only technically alien that they would be is the Amazonian, but that's still very human.
He wasn't. Yeah, exactly. They're just giant humans, right? The only thing I remember, but he wasn't attracted to was the Zoidberg one. The crustacean, right?
Right. Yes.
But other than that, everything else I think he's been with just human or human adjacent, right? So very, very similar to it. But yeah, this one, I mean, she's clearly human on top, right? And she was human, just they've evolved very quickly because of the Coca-Cola, apparently. But no, I was just thinking, like, I don't think Fry could have done anything, even if it was the reverse mermaid. So anyway. He tries to make it back to their ship as they're pulling away, and the professor has made this like little what'd you call this? Like a little
flipper.
fin
It's a
flipper
a
thing?
fin tape,
Yeah.
fin tail from like a fish where it goes back and forth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that the ship can go back to the surface or
It's now
whatever. So it's put on
aquatic.
the back. Yeah, it's now an aquatic looking ship. So it takes off, leaving him, and he's like, no. And then he sees the hook and he grabs the hook, but
Then the colossal mouth
the bass
bass
shows up again,
goes on the hook.
bites him, and the scene cuts to, I guess, like the next day, because Bender has the colossal fish, and it's about to be the most heaviest fish or something that someone's ever caught.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember what the word I'm looking for here now is.
Just a prize winning fish for whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For $1,000.
We're at that only $1,000, and yep, Fry falls out, making it non equitable to the size that he needs. So that's also Mayor Poopenmeyer again. This is like the third time I think we've seen him, and that's David Herman, and he says, well, I'm going to go give this to some giant orphans because it's a giant check. So nice little catch there. And then Bender starts like, because he's hugging Fry in happiness to see him.
He's happy to see him.
Strangling him. Yeah. But it turns out it didn't matter, because inside as well is Zoidberg, who's living in the bass. So it was too heavy from two people. It wasn't going to be heavy enough anyway. And ends there. And that's the Deep South. So yeah, your overall impressions of this episode. What do you feel?
I liked it. Yeah, it definitely had some good humor. With Hermes got to have his humor bone scratched for us. The professor,
you mean our humor bone?
Yeah, our humor bone was scratched by Hermes. Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure he thinks that we're funny too. Sure. Yeah. What's your favorite scene? Your MVP?
Oh, I don't know now. That's a toughie.
Why?
I think I already said it, but I forget now. But I like the stuff with Fry. It's funny.
My favorite line is literally the very beginning, with the toss the sack into the river, hurl the river into space. That's my favorite line. My favorite scene of it is when the second time when Leela throws the harpoon and it comes out as a box. I remember.
Yeah, I'll go with the box one. Yeah,
the box one. One of the reasons this is one of my favorite episodes, and my favorite episode of the season, and one of my favorite episodes of the show, is because this is the very first Futurama episode I ever watched, and I still remember the scenes and everything with this. I remember that scene distinctly, with Leela throwing that in and her saying like, oh yeah, it's like 10 times or 20 times heavier than a boot, and a 10-pack boots. And I'm like, what a beautiful joke. That was so well done. So I think that was there. In your MVP, is it Fry then?
Probably Fry.
Okay.
Yeah. I do like Zoidberg. He'd be a second, just because of the Zoidberg homeowner, and then have it all.
He had some really good lines in this, man. Like, he was hilarious. Like, even when he's like trying out Hermes' bait.
Yeah, I do like that one. Like, even though these crickets are juicy, very, very juicy.
And then but Hermes. So my MVP is Hermes, and I think just because their banter between the two of them all throughout the whole show is just wonderful. So Hermes is my MVP for this episode. But yeah, anything else to say for the Deep South?
No, I like it. It's a consistently good one. I don't know where it would be in my top, but I think it'd probably be over half, or just at like half.
For the whole show, or just for
this? For the whole show. Yeah.
Oh, for the whole show. Okay, cool. Yeah. No, that's fair.
It's mid. It's a consistent good. That's where I like it. It's right there.
Yes, it's a solid episode, structured very very well. Good jokes. Yeah, I honestly love this episode. So, in any case. That was the episode 16 of that, the Deep South, and then next time Bender Gets Made, episode 17 of season 2, and we'll be there to talk this one, right? We'll get some Mafia. Well, thanks again, Mitchell, for joining me, and I will look forward to talking with you soon.
Yeah.